do not get up to leave because there is still something very good to come. Pop quiz, who watches Game of Thrones? There's way too many nerds in here for so few hands to be up. Put your hands up, people. Okay. How many of you knew that the scenery in one of the coolest shows on TV today is not made in Hollywood, it's not made on a soundstage, it's made on a computer, I see a hand back there, here in Germany, in Stuttgart. You're about to meet the man whose company makes this happen, makes the show that millions and millions of people around the world watch. They do a whole lot more than just scenery for Game of Thrones. He is the CEO of Macavision, and he's here to talk about how digital pictures change our perception of reality. Please welcome Armin Pohl.
So, hello everybody. Thank you for staying here for a while. Grüß Gottle, gell? Wir kommen aus Stuttgart. And it has been a long morning already, and I just thought I should have been starting in directly with the video. But I will guide you through a few slides. And nice thing is the watch is still not running, but that's okay. So you have additional time for me. Now it runs. Okay, so 20 minutes left, and I hope I can give you some look behind the scenes. But my idea for today was to give you a little bit of a more of a philosophical view on how we are dealing with pictures, with visual content today, and how this is, let's say, how this is feeling and changing our perception of reality. And maybe after 20 minutes, you may watch some things on TV or somewhere else a little bit different. Just to give you a short background about our company, so we are already more than 20 years on the market. Classically started as a so-called video post-production company, but we have been reinventing ourselves for several times. And today we are around the globe, mainly working for the automotive industry, but also for the visual effects sector. And when we're thinking about pictures, so we always have been trying to capture reality, and some thousand years ago, around the Ice Age or so, until today you can see that we have been always trying to grab a picture from what was our world, from what was our daily life. And so creating a picture is not only capturing reality, but it's really creating reality, because this is what we see until today, how our forefathers saw their world. And when you talk about creating a reality with a picture, we see these things. And if we talk about photography, if we talk about digital pictures, the pictures of the past were always trying to form and to create the reality. So we can be very sure that this scenery never existed. So that was an ideal of what they wanted to show. So it was some kind of let's say what today is done with the news, today is probably done in the cinemas. So they wanted to tell a story with that. Say they wanted to show something specifically, and you could say, okay, this is clear, this is a painted picture. But with photography, this changed probably. But did photography really change this? And I'm not talking about manipulating pictures, simply what we believe is reality. If I take a picture, this is for real. And I think this is a very prominent example, and not far in the past, but a recent one, when we saw there was a march for solidarity of the Europeans' political elite. And how did this picture really was made is very interesting. So it was on a side road. This should give you the impression that they are part of the crowd and that they are connected with hundreds of thousands of people walking in Paris and demonstrating. It was not, for good reasons. It's about safety, and you can find arguments for that. But the interesting thing is, it doesn't need even retouching. So when we're talking about a picture shows reality, it makes a lot of difference which angle you're taking, or if you're looking on some kind of a video, how it is cut. So it is always that somebody wants to give a message to you, and with taking a picture, you're on the one hand leaving a reality, on the one hand you're creating reality. And when we're talking about photography, that's also very interesting. More than 100 years ago, with more or less, with the first photography, the first picture manipulation started, I'm very sure. So also here, again, somebody wanted to be a hero, and this is General Grant at City Point, composed out of 3 images. And I'm very sure that the people in these days weren't able to see that this is a complete compositing. Today you could say, yeah, sure, the horse hasn't been really standing there and so on. But for most of the recipients, that was reality then. And this is a very famous example. And when you look on the details, so it's not only, okay, that's visible, the commissary is gone. He might have been not any longer politically correct, so he needs to get out of the picture. But if you look on the left side and you look on the water, that's also retouched. So is this done just for beauty reasons? Or maybe, that was what I asked myself, maybe the right picture was the original one, and then they planned to put somebody in there, and then they decided, oh no, it wasn't a good idea, and both pictures exist until today. So this is, again, is the story how it is told today the right one, so that the commissar needs to be cut out of the picture? I don't know, but anyway, has thousands and thousands of examples how history or how documentation has been manipulated in the past, and today there is no question, everybody is used to that. That manipulation of pictures is done everywhere. So classical common practice in beauty photography. So you have a photo model, a really a beautiful woman, but could be optimized. Or there's always something you can find. And this is happening millions of times around the globe. And we all are now clear that we're not competing with the beauty of the right picture, but with the beauty of the left picture. So I have 2 daughters in the exact good age when they're 13 and 14, so I know what I'm talking about. And so they are in competition with what you see in the media, and how they are trying to really tell their own story in their social networks. Very interesting to see how they're optimizing themselves because of choosing the right angle, choosing the right environment, and they all say, oh no, we're not photoshopping us, so that's uncool. All right, so nice to hear. But when you think this forward, so what's coming behind there? So in today's situation, we are thriving to find the ideal beauty and competing against Photoshop pictures. But in a future not far away, we might compete against not existing characters, so completely digitally created characters. And this is already happening. So the technology behind is when we're talking capturing reality. You saw this in the cave of the Stone Age. They were trying to capture reality. Technically, this has been gone a long way. Interestingly, it's a cave again. So and you're digitizing a complete body with all geometry, all surfaces, everything. So in the industry, this has been starting many, many years ago, collecting material, collecting geometries, but now it is on the technology edge that it's possible to convince ourselves that a digital twin is looking like somebody who has been really photographed and could move and all that. And so the body scan, and again, that's not science fiction. I know companies who are doing this on a very high level, and our ability to see the difference between a real human and a digital human is on a very, very high level, because over millions of years it was important for us to understand the slightest reaction in the faces of your opposite, because it could be dangerous for you if you're maybe misguessing what's happening there. So this is why we are so sensitive about digital characters. But the better the technology got, the closer we get to build for ourselves convincing so-called digital twins. I have here an example from a CG model and an actor. So this is the actor who is the character Hulk. And I think many of you may know, this was, I think, the last movie of the Terminator series. There was already a digital twin of young Arnold Schwarzenegger. And this is, if you think this forward, what does this mean for the future about completely different business models for an actor and for the studios? So you could probably collect the current situation or the current shape and visibility of an actor with all his typical movements and say, okay, we freeze him at the age of 35. We are licensing him for several types of movies. You could say, okay, I'm signing in for action movies, I don't do pornography, blah, blah, blah. So all these things, and I'm very, very sure this is going to happen, and so that we will see actors on screen in the near future which might have looked that way some years ago, and they probably could, for sure, like today, they could do things which can't be done in a physical world, and they could probably act in several movies in a parallel way because they are available on a computer platform. And beyond that, completely and digitally designed characters. We already have examples, not completely photorealistic, but that's the first step in these types of business models, that virtual characters do product placement. And companies like Gucci, for example, paying money that the virtual actors, in an example here from that was Final Fantasy, Gucci, Prada, several different companies were then paying for the product placement. So these business models are starting right off, and we will see a lot of them in the coming 5 to 10 years. So how pictures became digital is also an interesting thing. So when we talk about scanners and how what was the first digital picture taken by a digital camera, that was already in the 1950s. And it's all about storytelling. So like we already heard, it's always the idea of how can I capture my reality and how could I build a nice story which I can tell to somebody else. That's always the goal, and this is built into us. And what we see here is the merging of technologies which are coming from two sides. On the one hand, there was the automotive industry, mainly driven by the automotive industry through engineering, the so-called CAD, computer-aided design. The tools got better and better, and then you had in the end data which could be used for very convincing visualization. In parallel, the movie industry were looking for better ways of telling stories, and these technologies were getting closer and closer, and in the past 10 years, more or less, I strongly believe that almost no blockbuster was on the market where no CGI was used. So CGI stands for computer-generated imagery. And the first one where rendered images were used is very, very old. So in the 70s, Star Wars, only 40 seconds of the Death Star. But that was the first step into the industry. A little bit later, financially disastrous Tron. I think Tron is well known. It was for me personally, really an eye-opener when I thought, oh wow, this is cool, I want to do these things. And I later on started doing 3D in 1990, so a long time ago. But there were some, like everybody has that, you're just triggered by something and you think, oh, that's cool, that will change something totally in how stories could be told. And I give you a look into how it's done today. this may give you an insight, and you won't believe in future what you saw on TV. So, and this is the part how the industry started in with computer-generated images. So in the 80s, so it was just about, oh, what a nice technology, you can do things with not spoiling the paper and using airbrushes. So that was the first step into that, so just driven by the beauty of technology. And so it was not driven by the beauty of the picture, to be honest. And it was adapted through several industries, very clear that you could show things which do not exist and you don't need to paint them. So architecture industries and the studios were adapting this very early. So Stuttgart 21 is something where I worked on in 1992. So I wouldn't have thought that it takes that long until it's realized, but yeah, funny that in reality things take much longer than you anticipate while doing the digital work. And also in the automotive and the pharmaceutical industry, it was in the beginning about showing things which can't be shown in a different way or which simply do not exist. And it changed more and more the game when the data got better and you could understand, okay, I could do classical marketing stuff with that. And so this is something I was playing with my customers more than 10 years ago when I said, okay, I have 6 pictures here, and 3 of them are classically photographed, 3 of them are rendered, because everybody thought you see the CGI thing and then it's not looking real, and I thought, all right, so let's check this out. And so this one is CGI, as this one is, as that one is, and everybody who guessed about that, so it was more or less 50% right, 50% wrong. So even more than 10 years ago, it was a technological and religious discussion, but had nothing to do with is the picture good or not. So and this is long gone, but there are still people who think, I can CGI, but I would say you can't. And today, the virtual is really the normal. So everything what we see from a product communication, lots of the industry, more or less everything, including the food industry, is using CGI. And what we see as a real product normally doesn't exist at all, but it's just a data-based model which is used to present the product in all possible variations on all markets. And this is something where I want to show you as a TV commercial for Toyota, where you can see the result, but in the beginning there's a short making of. So this is also done with a very little of real shooting, some shots in Tokyo, but the rest is more or less done completely in the computer. So one of the tunnels was named Europe/England, so a very recent production. Huh? Yeah. So, but automotive customers are not only about storytelling; they have the problem which a lot of industries have when they have more than one type of product. So the thing is, they only sell what they can show. So this is why product configurators do exist. So you have not only one, possibly not only 1,000, but in that case, I don't really know exactly what the number is called in English, but it's I think it's quadrillions what we have here. So if you have the full fleet in that example of Mercedes, all cars in all theoretically buildable variations, so everything they could sell comes up to that number. impossible to take pictures and for sure impossible to build all them. So Mercedes is currently selling 1.1 similar cars. So more or less every car is different. So what I heard the E-Class last year was there was only 2 E-Classes the same leaving Sindelfingen. So that's it. That's the reality. So it's very important for them that they can show what the customer later on hopefully buys. Otherwise, they especially the accessories where they make the most money with, if you can't show them these things, you are just losing money. And so the industry thinks about storytelling differently, and this is the way they are going into the future, really from one data set centralized into all media channels and simultaneously in an updated way. So it's an industrial process which is behind that, and all that comes from the one hand from technology, from the other hand how storytelling was coming along. And as I already said, this is what we perceive as reality today. And sometimes reality sucks. So I could tell a lot of stories about what's happening on a real shooting, but as the time of the 20 minutes is already due, I could only say, for example, when you're out for shooting of a car, we really experienced that for an AMG production, the driver just had an accident and the car was burned down. So and then what to do? So you don't have another car available, or the car is there but has the wrong color, or you have 2 or 3 cars for the shooting and then have an accident with themselves. So you need to fix that digitally, or today these things are done completely virtually. Or you have an update situation, so you want to save simply money, that you say, I have a new car, but I don't want to show it on the road, so please do the shooting with the old car and make an update with data, so with CGI. I have an example here. What we did for Mercedes for the CLS. On top of that, there was that one moment which comes up in New York only 2 times per year, when the sunset is exactly alongside of the streets. And when the shooting was, there was a completely cloudy sky. So we needed to do some updating on New York as well. So much about real shot reality. So what's next? We are all talking about augmented and virtual reality. Everybody knows the head-mounted devices are now sold worldwide, and I personally believe that's only an in-between step, because who really loves to have that kind of plastic thing wearing while you want to experience something? And I believe that the next step of technology will be some kind of in-retina projection, so that with contactless you get pictures, and that this is blended with your view of the surrounding reality. And the technology of VR and AR is used widely around in showrooms around the globe, and this is a coming thing for the coming 2 or 3 years. But when we think what's behind that, when everybody would have said before you saw this today, I only trust what I see with my own eyes, and this will jump out of the screen into the physical world through the next generation of technology, where I do know that companies which have a lot of funding are intensely working at. So it will happen, definitely. And one example here. So this is a video post-production thing, no question, but it gives you the impression what an audience like that here could experience if the tracking systems and the projectors would already technically exist. And you could say we are playing something here on stage and faking it totally, and it would really take part with that. So this will be a completely next step into how advertisement is done, how communication is done, and the logical question is, okay, this is going to be really a part of our reality. And so my final statement for today is, so creating the virtual in today's world means to create reality, and I think we've not seen much, so the best thing is still to come in the coming years, and I'm excited to be part of that, and I think we all together hopefully will have big fun in seeing what technology and creativity will bring to us. So enjoy the rest of the wonderful conference, and thank you, everybody.
Cool.